Hello, welcome to ParkSpill. My name is Sean and this is my top 10 rides at Alton Towers. Notice how I say rides, not coasters, because I'm a big fan of all the rides, everywhere, wherever. So, what will be number 1? Spoiler alert, it's Haunted Hollow. So number 10 is the Sky Ride. Yes, that gondola system that transports you around the park. I class that as a very, very good ride. I think it's one of them really underrated experiences because it's so unique to Towers. I mean, you go over valleys, the gardens. I think it offers some of the best views in this country. That is if you're okay dangling 200 foot in the air in a plastic box suspended by just a wire. It's not for everyone. So number 9 is Rita. Oh yes, Rita beat the Sky Ride. So Rita is an accelerator coaster, opened up in 2005. It launches riders 0 to 61 miles per hour in 2.1 seconds. So Rita is one of them controversial rides. People tend to not rate it that much. If you're going to compare it to Stealth at Thorpe Park, it comes nowhere near it. I think that initial launch out of the station, which is really cool to watch other people on when you're waiting in the station, you go straight into that banked right turn. I just think it's a really nice feeling. Got a bit of good airtime on it. If you're anywhere other than the front, it is a little bit rattly. It's always got massive queues, so the general public must love it. However, if they were to get rid of it and replace it with something even better, Intamin Blitz, then I wouldn't really miss it, to be honest. So number 8 is Jewel. Did anyone see that come in? Jewel is Alton Towers' take on the classic ghost train. It opened up in 1992 under its original name, which is The Haunted House. In 2002, it was renamed Jewel and they added laser guns target throughout the ride, as well as ripping out some of the most iconic scenes within the haunted house. Now, I preferred the original version. I just feel like the noise of the laser guns kind of grating. I feel like the lights from the target actually light things up that really shouldn't be lit up in a kind of a ghost train. So my favourite part of Jewel is actually the frontage and the line, which is really weird to say that your favourite part of a whole ride is the queue. I remember when I first went on that ride, going through the gloomy woods and then seeing the haunted house, the frontage of it just looks incredible. And then you go through the front doors into the drawing room, and that drawing room for me is one of my favourite queue lines in the world. In that drawing room, it has a really eerie atmosphere. It's kind of nearly unchanged since its original opening. So yeah, I prefer it without the laser guns, but I can completely understand why Alton Towers made the decision to do it. I think having that interactive element to it draws more families in, and I think it did, revive some interest back into the ride. Even though Jewel or the Haunted House has seen better days, I'm just glad it's still there. If they ever ripped that ride out, I would be genuinely heartbroken. So yeah, love Jewel. So number 7 is Oblivion. Oh yes, the ride that single-handedly got me into jungle music. One time, Oblivion would have been very high on my list, but as I've done kind of new parks, gone around the world, done other dive coasters, it's kind of slipped down on the list for me. Not quite into Oblivion just yet. But you can't take away the fact that this is the very first dive coaster, and for its time it was revolutionary. But the problem is for me is that the dive, even though it's so intense, that's all it kind of does. I just wish there was more. I always just feel kind of unsatisfied by it. So that brings me to number 6, and number 6 is Galactica. So Galactica originally opened up in 2000 under its original name, Air. I find the layout really nice. It's a really fun layout. It's not intense, but it's not really meant to be. And because it's so close to the ground, it really does feel like you're flying. So my favourite part of Galactica is that first drop to the right and then up through the portal, fly to lie element where you're on your back for a bit of time, and then lie to fly, and then through the tunnel. So back in 2016 they actually renamed Air to Galactica and they updated it to feature VR headsets, and then last year in 2019 they actually got rid of all the VR completely. Some people do prefer Air's original theming. I did like Air's theming, but it was starting to look a bit tired. The ride just looks fresh again now. It looks like it's being looked after, which I'm a really big fan of as well. So number 5 is Hex, and Hex is one of my favourite dark rides in the world. Now Hex is one half walk-through attraction and second half Vekoma Madhouse. If you know what a Vekoma Madhouse is, I won't spoil it if you don't know what it is, because I think the biggest joy about it is when you've never done one before and you experience it for the first time. So the actual entrance to Hex is the original entrance to the towers themselves when it was a functioning estate. It's just cool that it's one of the only permanent rides in Alton Towers to utilise the tower ruins themselves. But the story behind the ride is the fact that Towers have been doing this renovation project in the towers, and they've actually found this secret vault, and you're about to experience what's inside the vault. So when you get into the next room, there's a big cinema screen and it tells the story of the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury, and this is actually a true local legend. Well, we don't know if it's true, it's an actual local legend, and it's about the chained oak. You can actually go and see this tree. It's about a 10-minute walk from the park itself. Now, I love this ride because it does involve local history, and it just makes the ride very original to other madhouses around the world. Number 4 is 13. Yes, it's not the fastest coaster, it's not the tallest coaster, it's not the most intense coaster, but what it is, it's a solid family ride. Spoiler alert, if you've never ridden this coaster and you want to be surprised, please skip to this timestamp now because I'm going to spoil the ride for you. Still here? Okay, brill. So my favourite part of this is obviously the vertical freefall drop, and when you actually come out backwards out of the tunnel, like, because you're in the dark, it just feels like you're going so much more faster than you actually are. I really appreciate 13 for what it is. I love the coaster element to it. I just think it's so fun flying through them trees. When you get to the actual drop itself, that is just a fantastic finale. I think it's one of the great in-between coasters for young riders or nervous riders, and for that reason I think 13 fits in perfectly at Alton Towers. Number 3 is the Smiler. So the Smiler is an infinity coaster made by Gerstlauer. It holds the world record for the most inversions in a coaster in the entire world, and that's 14 inversions, and it can reach a speed up to 53 miles per hour. So when you first approach the Smiler, it is such a mess of track. You don't really know where trains are coming from and where they're heading. I would say the standout elements for me is the first dive loop just after the corkscrew, and also the airtime hill after you're coming out of the sea serpent roll. That airtime hill married up with that spray of water when it's working is brilliant. But something I love the most about the Smiler is just the general theming. All you have to do is look at the cult-like following that the Smiler has. A lot of people don't really like the queue. I like the queue. It fits the theme really well. I think it's like the only time a park has managed to make a cattle pen queue part of the theming. It's genius, really. So that brings me to number 2, and number 2 is Wickerman. So this is the wooden coaster built by GCI, and in fact the first wooden coaster to be built in the UK in 22 years. Well, it's not my favourite wooden coaster in the UK or even the world. It's not even my favourite GCI, but what I love about Wickerman is the theming around it. The first thing you normally do is when you go towards a wooden coaster is you're in awe of the size of this thing. With Wickerman it's not like that. What you are in awe of is Wickerman structure itself, which most people know it as Big Bob. But as you approach it, you see Big Bob with the flames coming out of his shoulders, the smoke bellowing out, the general theming and the song blasting out. I really like the fact that when you're walking through the queue line, you're actually walking through the coaster itself, and then you go into an amazing pre-show. Well, I won't spoil the surprise, but it's a really nice projection mapping show that you're treated to. My standout moment, I've got 2 standout moments. Mine is the first curved drop into that airtime hill. I absolutely love that airtime hill. My second favourite moment is when you pass through Big Bob the second time. You do a slight drop down to the right, you come back up, and then you're whipped to the left. And every time that happens, if I'm on the back row, I actually do grey out. It's really weird because I don't grey out that much on coasters. I don't know if it's just the way that you're whipped around. It just gets me every time, but it's so nice and intense, especially on the back. But yeah, I just love everything about it. I love the logo, like I say, absolutely love the theming, and it's a great step forward for the park. So number 1, can you guess? It's Spinball. It's Nemesis. Sit back, it's fright time. So it may no longer be the world's most intense experience, as the sign suggests. What it does have is personality, and lots of personality at that. So this coaster has a really special place in my heart. It wasn't the first coaster I ever did, but it was the first coaster that I rode that made me realise what coasters could do. Now, what makes this coaster so special is that they actually had to blow a massive hole in the ground to even get the height to be able to build Nemesis, and the coaster's going to use the landscape to its advantage. Or quite close to the ground majority of the way through. It just creates a load of near miss elements that I just absolutely love. But the whole experience, it's everything put together. The roar of the track, you know, being the queue line in the middle of this tangled mess. Iconic soundtrack made by Graham Smart that still plays to this day, and it's a timeless piece of music in my opinion. In terms of how it rides as an actual coaster, if you ride in the back seat, it offers the most intense ride in the park in my opinion. However, for me, my favourite position is right at the front. My favourite element on this coaster is actually the vertical loop. Now normally, you know, I'm not that big a fan of vertical loops. It's not like I don't like them, I just think they're meh. I just think there's better elements really. The second half of the vertical loop, where it feels like you're at the highest point in the possible ride and you swoop straight under into that tunnel. I will never get tired of that feeling, it's incredible. The fact that this coaster is over 25 years old and it's still giving the other coasters in the park a run for its money is absolutely crazy. And after it had its recent repaint, it's now looking better than ever. I can't wait to keep riding Nemesis for another 25 years. So there we go, that was my top 10 rides at Alton Towers. Was there some surprises in there, something you didn't expect? Let me down in the comments, and also, like I say, let me know your top 5 or top 10. So yeah, if you did like this video, let me know by giving it a like, and also subscribe if you want more content like this. Okay, thank you very much, see you later, bye.